of the pastime of Shakshi Gopal from the Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 5. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद
Before we begin, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In His mercy, He has brought Lord Chaitanya's movement to the West. He has translated and given us the Bhaktivedanta purports of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita so that we can understand the inner meaning of Lord Chaitanya's mission and how we can apply it in our lives. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just a really brief background of where we are today. Um, those that have been following along, which I believe are all of you, we know that there was a promise given by an elderly Brahmana to a young Brahmana, um, that the elderly Brahmin said that I will give my daughter to you, to the younger Brahmin. And this was done in appreciation for the dedicated service that the young Brahmin uh, had given to the elder Brahmin while they were on pilgrimage. And understanding the young Brahmin's wonderful qualities, he thought no better person that I would like to give my daughter to. The young Brahmin felt that this may be a problem because he didn't consult first with his family, and two, they were at a different social level. Even though they were both Brahmanas, one was more aristocratic, the elder Brahmin was more aristocratic, the younger Brahmin was poor. So sure enough, this had come to pass. And when they returned home, um, when the family of the elder Brahmin found out about this, they became very disturbed. And to the point where, family started becoming very dramatic. The wife was going to commit suicide. The relatives were going to disown him. And then all of a sudden, he has all this anxiety. How am I going to solve this problem? There's an elder brother who um, says, okay, I can manipulate this situation. I'm going to take care of it, by, creating some confusion and some lies. And so this didn't sit well with the younger Brahmana, who had predicted this could actually be an issue. And because of that, he actually had asked the elder Brahmin to take a vow before Gopal. And it's not that the younger Brahmin was attached to marrying his daughter. He never, this wasn't, but he understood that Brahminical culture needed to be maintained, and honesty in keeping one's vows is a part of that. And he saw this as direct devotional service to Krishna, that when one bears or one takes a vow in front of the Supreme Lord, and the Lord bears witness to that, that one should honor that. And he feared for the degradation of the elderly Brahmins' Brahminical culture. And this is why he took it so seriously. So he, in turn, he made a proposal. He says, what if I go get Gopal and ask Gopal to personally come here and bear witness. Then will everybody believe me that that your father um, and husband, made this vow. So a lot of the family members and village people who were uh, observing all this and participating in trying to manipulate the situation, they said, very good proposal, very good proposal. And they were joking and mocking the young Brahmana because generally they were atheists. They didn't have any faith that the deity is actually a conscious being, actually the supreme being. And they just said, yes, sure, go ahead and go get your God. And, when your God comes, then um, uh, we'll resolve this, thinking that they had won a victory. There's no way that the deity was actually going to come, from Vrindavan, all the way down south. Um, so this is where we pick up. It was when the young Brahmana. I'll just read a few verses from, and then we'll go into the Bengali reading and the translations for today. The young Brahmana, he when arriving in Vrindavan, approached Sri Gopal. He says, he put the situation before Gopal. He explained what had happened. And he says, "My dear Lord, I am not thinking to become happy by getting the daughter as a bride. I am simply thinking that the Brahmana has broken his promise, and this has given me great pain." The younger Brahmana continued, "My dear sir, you are very merciful, and you know everything. Therefore, kindly be a witness to this case. A person who knows things as they are and still does not bear witness becomes involved in sinful activities." Lord Krishna replied, "My dear Brahmana, go back to your home and call a meeting with all of the men, and in that meeting, just try to remember me. I shall certainly appear there, and at that time I shall protect the honor of both you Brahmanas, by bearing witness to the promise." The young Brahmana replied, "My dear sir, even if you appear there as four-handed Vishnu deity, still none of these people will believe your words. Only if you go there in this form of Gopal and speak the words from your beautiful face will your testimony be heard by all the people." Very interesting. Lord Krishna then says, "I've never heard of a deity walking from one place to another." So then he says, then the Brahmana says, "My dear Lord, but you are not a statue. You are directly the son of Maharaj Nanda. Now, for the sake of the old Brahmana, can you, s- can you do something you have never done before?" And Sri Gopalji then smiled and said, "My dear Brahmana, just listen to me. I shall walk behind you, and in this way I shall go with you." So Krishna's love for his devotee, both giving the request, and he was also had a pure request because he was doing it for the benefit of the elder Brahmana, who the younger Brahmana respected so much. So let's pick up on text number 98. Nisringa Prabhu, would you be able to read the Sanskrit today? I mean the
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
উল্টিয়া আমা তুমি না করিহ দর্শনে, আমাকে দেখিলে আমি রহিব সেই স্থানে।
Translation. The Lord continued, "Do not try to see me by turning around. As soon as you see me, I shall remain stationary in that very place."
নূপুরের ধ্বনি মাত্র আমার শুনিবা, সেই শব্দে আমার গমন প্রতীতি করিবা।
You will know that I am walking behind you by the sound of my ankle bells.
একশের অন্ন রান্ধি করিহ সমর্পণ, তাহা খাইয়া তোমার সঙ্গে করিব গমন।
Cook 1 kilo of rice daily and offer it. I shall eat that rice and follow behind you.
আর দিন আজ্ঞা মাঙি চলিলা ব্রাহ্মণ, তার পাছে পাছে গোপাল করিলা গমন।
The next day, the Brahmana begged permission from Gopal and started for his country. Gopal followed him step by step.
নূপুরের ধ্বনি শুনি আনন্দিত মন, উত্তমান্ন পাক করি করায় ভোজন।
While Gopal followed the young Brahmana, the tinkling sound of his ankle bells could be heard. The Brahmana became very pleased, and he cooked first-class rice for Gopal to eat.
এই মতে চলি বিপ্র নিজ দেশে আইলা, গ্রামের নিকট আসি মনেতে চিন্তিলা।
The young Brahmana walked and walked in this way until he eventually arrived in his own country. When he neared his own village, he began to think as follows.
এবে মুই গ্রামে আইনু যাইমু ভবন, লোকেরে কহিব গিয়া সাক্ষীর আগমন।
I have now come to my village, and I shall go to my home and tell all the people that the witness has arrived. You can only imagine how, as closer and closer he's getting, he's thinking, now they are going to see Gopal. This will awaken their faith in Gopal. And they were also doubting him. They were doubting the fact that Gopal was actually the Supreme Lord. And imagine the surprise they're going to feel when they see that Gopal is actually traveling. You know, you can only imagine the anticipation he was feeling.
সাক্ষাতে না দেখিলে মনে প্রতীতি না হয়, ইহা যদি রহেন তবু নাহি কিছু ভয়।
The Brahmana then began to think that if the people didn't directly see the Gopal deity, they would not believe that he had arrived. But even if Gopal stays here, he thought, there is still nothing to fear.
এত ভাবি সেই বিপ্র ফিরিয়া চাহিল, হাসিয়া গোপাল দেব তথায় রহিল।
Thinking this, the Brahmana turned to look back, and he saw that Gopal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was standing there smiling.
ব্রাহ্মণরে কহে, তুমি যাহ নিজ ঘর, এথায় রহিব আমি না যাব অতঃপর।
The Lord told the Brahmana, now you can go home. I shall stay here and shall not leave.
তবে সেই বিপ্র যাই নগরে কহিল, শুনিয়া সকল লোক চমৎকার হইল।
Young Brahmana then went to the town and informed all the people about Gopala's arrival. Hearing this, the people were struck with wonder. So when Gopal stopped, it must have been right outside of the town, not too far away.
আইল আইল সকল লোক সাক্ষী দেখিবারে, গোপাল দেখিয়া লোক দণ্ডবৎ করে।
All the townspeople went to see the witness Gopal. And when they saw the Lord actually standing there, they offered their respectful obeisances.
গোপাল সৌন্দর্য দেখি লোকে আনন্দিত, প্রতিমা চলিয়াল আইল শুনিয়া বিস্মিত।
When the people arrived, they were very pleased to see the beauty of Gopal. And when they heard that he had actually walked there, they were all surprised. Can only imagine the different, because there are a lot of townspeople. So some of them may have had faith, some of them didn't have faith. And now, how could the Gopal deity, come there? He's explaining that, he actually walked there. Can only imagine the amazement um, that they were feeling.
তবে সেই বড় বিপ্র আনন্দিত হইয়া গোপালের আগে পড়ে দণ্ডবৎ হইয়া।
Then the elderly Brahmana, being very pleased, came forward and immediately fell like a stick in front of Gopal. Dandavat. That's the translation, the word for word translation of Dandavat is like a stick that just, if it's standing up, it just falls straight down. Let me say, I offer my Dandavats, we're falling down um, like a stick and offer our obeisances. It's stated in the Nectar of Devotion that when we fall, we should be like a stick, and when we offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, or to the spiritual master, or to the devotees of the Lord, it should be 100%. It shouldn't be half. Sometimes people go down with like one hand because they're carrying some bag or something like that. Even it could be some spiritual paraphernalia you could be holding. Um, Still, it is recommended that um, we put those items aside for the time being, and when we offer obeisances fully, um, placing our head to the ground, both hands on the ground. For men, you know, just to the ground. For ladies, it's modified a little bit. Um, uh, so that includes even like a bead bag. Sometimes people like to chant while they're offering dandavats. This is not recommended. In fact, our two hands, they say, what extend your two hands. You should actually, um, uh, imagine yourself touching the lotus feet of the Lord or the lotus feet of the spiritual master. That's why it's important to have, both hands out in full surrender. You've abandoned everything, and I'm surrendering to you. Next verse.
সকল লোকেরে আগে গোপাল সাক্ষী দিল, বড় বিপ্র ছোট বিপ্রে কন্যাদান কইল।
Thus, in the presence of all the townspeople, Lord Gopal bore witness that the elderly Brahmana had offered his daughter in charity to the young Brahmana.
তবে সেই দুই বিপ্রে কহিল ঈশ্বর, তুমি দুই জন্মে জন্মে আমার কিঙ্কর।
After the marriage ceremony was performed, the Lord informed both Brahmanas, "You two Brahmanas are my eternal servants, birth after birth." Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Like these two Brahmanas of Vidyanagar, there are many devotees who are eternal servants of the Lord. They are specifically known as Nityasiddha, eternally perfect. Although the Nityasiddhas appear in this material world and seem to be common members of the world, they never forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any condition. This is the symptom of a Nityasiddha. There are two kinds of living entities, Nityasiddha and Nityabhara. The Nityasiddha never forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality, whereas the Nityabhara is always conditioned, even before the creation. He always forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here, the Lord informs the two Brahmana that they are his servants, birth after birth. The phrase birth after birth refers to the material world because in the spiritual world there is no birth, death, old age, or disease. By the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Nitya Siddha remains within this material world like an ordinary man. But the only business of the Nitya Siddha is to broadcast the glories of the Lord. This incident appears to be an ordinary story about a marriage transaction involving two ordinary people. However, Krishna accepted the two Brahmanas as his eternal servants. Both Brahmanas took much trouble in these negotiations, just as mundane people do. Yet they were acting as eternal servants of the Lord. All Nitya Siddhas within this material world may appear to toil like ordinary men, but they never forget their position as servants of the Lord. Another point, the elderly Brahmana belonged to an aristocratic family and was learned and wealthy. The young Brahmana belonged to an ordinary family and was uneducated. But these mundane qualifications do not concern a Nitya Siddha engaged in the service of the Lord. We have to accept the fact that the Nitya Siddhas are completely distinct from the Nitya Bhadas, who are ordinary human beings. Srila Narottam Das Thakur confirms this statement. Gorangera Sangagane Nitya Siddha Karimane Seyaya Brajendra Sutta Pasa Shri Gora Mandala Bhumi Yeba Jane Chintamani Tarahai Brajabhumi Vasa. One who accepts the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Nitya Siddhas is certainly to be elevated to the spiritual kingdom, to become an associate of the Supreme Lord. One should also know that the Gautamandala Bhumi, those places in Bengal where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed, are equal to Brajabhumi or Vrindavan. There is no difference between the inhabitants of Vrindavan and those of the Gautamandala Bhumi, Sri Dham Mayapur. Just a few points here. Just the first purport that we've encountered in today. Om Jnanatimbrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Amritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So Lord Krishna has made a very important statement here. He informed both of the Brahmanas that both of you are my eternal servants, birth after birth. Now, we are every living entity is the eternal servant of Krishna. This is the constitutional nature of the soul, is that it's an eternal das das anudas, jiver surupa hoy, Krishnara nitya das. But in this particular case, we should understand that there are two categories. There are the Nitya Siddhas, who never forget their relationship with Krishna. And then there's another category, the Nitya Bhadas, who have forgotten their eternal relationship with Krishna. And this is the distinction between the two. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text number 16, Krishna says there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. So we have the same concept, same principle that is spoken in the Bhagavad Gita as well for confirmation. So in this world, the Nitya Siddhas are in the extreme minority. But in all of existence, actually Nitya Siddhas are in the extreme majority. Because the spiritual world is so much more vast than this material world. Srila Prabhupada, when talking about this, he uses the example of a prison. That within a city, um, it has a prison on the outskirts. And there, the people that don't abide by the laws, they have to go reside within the prison. And in the prison, the number of prisoners certainly outweigh the amount of people who are free. Yes, there's some people who are free that work within the prison. The number of prisoners are so much more. Um, so in the same way, in the spiritual world, uh, there are innumerable living entities that are engaged in the eternal service of Krishna, who have not forgotten their eternal relationship. But here in the material world, because this is the place where those that want to forget, Krishna has created, so that they can try their experiment of trying to exist without Krishna, which we know is not possible. Um, uh, so these are the two categories, Nitya Siddha and Nitya Buddha. Uh, we don't want to be Nitya Buddhas forever. By the mercy of the Nitya Siddha, um, they're able to deliver the the eternal message of Lord Krishna and reawaken our eternal love for God. So Krishna sends these Nitya Siddhas from the spiritual world to assist him in this mission. These this term birth after birth, um, uh, you've maybe heard it before in relationship to the spiritual master, uh, the, the Nitya Siddha who's um, uh, assisting the Supreme Lord in his mission to reclaim the fallen souls in this world. We find this phrase in the song by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Shri Guru Vandanam. Chakshudano dilo je janmi janmi prabhu se Tibya Gyana Ride Prakasito. That, you know, that the spiritual master, you're my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. Um, so the spiritual master, even though the Nitya Buddhas are taking birth after birth after birth in this world, the Nitya Siddhas, even though coming into this world to bring the souls back to Krishna, they may be appearing like they're engaged in regular activity, um, of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But actually, because their quality, does anybody remember the quality of a Nitya Siddha? What makes them? That's stated here. The Nitya Buddha is forgetful, So the Nitya Siddha
Always remember Krishna.
always remembers Krishna, always remembers their relationship with Krishna.
Yeah.
They're on a different platform because the remembrance is always with Krishna. So, um, and this is spoke, and this is, when you look at the two Brahmanas, um, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that, they were involved in this negotiation. Some people say, well, why is this? How did this fall into the place of the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Why would Lord Chaitanya, sannyasi, be relishing these pastimes? Why would he be repeating them? You know, because although they may appear mundane, they were the recipients of Krishna's mercy, and they had not forgotten Krishna. And Krishna had either had used them for this pastime, you know, um, and but they were not mundane people. And this pastime of Shakshi Gopal has now been amplified and glorified for, you know, for centuries now. Um, and then the last point I want to make is that Srila Prabhupada says that the Nitya Siddhas, um, they're completely distinct from the Nitya Buddhas with regards to social obligations. Um, uh, we talked about earlier how the mundane qualifications of uh, they apply to the Nitya Buddhas, those that are conditioned in this world. And therefore, a marriage between somebody who from a wealthy family and educated, unwealthy family and uneducated, typically you don't see this because of the social dynamic.
That's it.
But those that, so Srila Prabhupada makes an important point, that those that are on the Nitya Siddha platform, uh, they don't consider these mundane qualifications. They're not concerned about these mundane qualifications. We have to be very careful in our execution of Krishna Bhakti, that we don't overstep ourselves and believe ourselves to be more advanced. Um, because sometimes these social things still may apply to us based on our attachments and our level of surrender to the Supreme Lord. We may hear about these things and say, well, these things don't apply to me because I'm practicing Krishna consciousness. But yet our attachments are still rooted, although we're trying to, you know, cut those roots out, we still may have deep attachment. And as a result of such, we still may have some obligations that we have to 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 recognize. And if we renounce them prematurely, we may find ourselves in, a bad marriage per se, because we thought, oh, these things don't apply to us, but yet our attachments are still there, or relationships or various endeavors where we may try to be more renounced than we actually are. But for the Nitya Siddhas who are always remembering Krishna and never forget Krishna, this doesn't apply to them. Any comments, questions, or realizations on this particular subject of the Nitya Siddhas and Nitya Buddhas?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I have other question about the Gopal deity. Gopal personally came to witness
Mm,
Brahma's wedding. He was personally there, or I
yeah.
missed something.
Yes. Yeah, he walked from Vrindavan um, based on the humble request um, of his devotee, and he followed him all the way back to right outside the Vidyanagar.
Okay.
And
Thank
then
you.
um,
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
and so we can understand that this is a very uncommon situation. We don't see this every day. I can only imagine. What if Shri Radha Bihari showed up at your door to come see you?
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank
How do you
you.
vote? You know, what would that do for your life? You know, remove all doubts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was in Cuttack, but I went to her Sakshi Gopal. But the way the pandas give the picture, until this time I never knew that he personally went all the way again. He witnessed the wedding and he was there present at the wedding. But those pandas say, you remember that at the beginning that he was telling, Sakshi Gopal was telling that he was telling the young Brahmana, I will walk behind you. As long as when you turn back, I won't. But don't turn back, and then you can hear my ankle bells.
Mm.
That's what he says. And the way the Pandas told the story for us, where the Brahmana turns back at one point, and then Gopal becomes statue. That's where the Sakshi Gopal they used to say, the temple.
Yeah.
I don't know how far it is correct, but just now I heard from this Narottam Das point, here Prabhupada's this Chaitanya Chaitamur, he was saying that he went all the way to the village and then he performed the wedding and everybody knows and then they were all happy. But I don't know which one is this thing. See, they said Sakshi Gopal temple was like that. He became statue when the Brahmana turned the ankle bells he didn't hear. And he turned back and then Gopal was statue.
Yeah.
Which is something, I don't know, I was puzzled. But here, uh, Gopal, he just gave the, what is that, blessing that both the Brahmanas will go birth out of birth, they will be eternal servants.
Mm.
See here, this says after marriage ceremony was performed, the Lord informed both the Brahmanas. You two Brahmanas are many, my eternal servants, birth after birth. Both of them got the blessing.
Yeah.
So I don't know that these pandas also might be misguided us.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's not a whole lot of distinction there, but this the settled point here. We follow
Yeah.
Chaitanya Charitamrita because this is the authorized biography of Sri Chaitanya by Krishnadas Kaviraj, and Srila Prabhupada is narrating this from the
Yeah.
translations. His spiritual master. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who he quotes quite oft frequently in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, sometimes there's little subtle differences in the different stories, but taking the words here that are presented
Yeah.
for us, this is, what we should understand it as such. Um, so, you are my eternal servants, birth after birth. So these are
Yeah.
prominence we can understand. They
That's
continue.
and he was telling that that see old Brahmana also. He says, you did all this, but this is how we have to be, no matter whether rich or poor. You should accept like that. I don't know. That is a blessing for old Brahmana also.
Yeah. Well, we can only imagine the feeling
Yeah.
that the old Brahmana felt, being a servant of Krishna, uh,
Uh-huh.
but yet in this particular circumstance, and you can call it, Leela, that, he got caught in uh, a difficult situation. And oftentimes family life is full of difficult
Oh,
situations,
yeah, of course.
isn't it?
Of course. All the family lives are like that. Good
It's,
and bad, good and bad.
one part of the family wants one thing, another part wants another thing. Somebody's
Yeah,
giving advice, another person's
exactly.
giving advice, and one person, I'm not coming, another person, no, if you're not coming, then I'm not coming. And then, you know, so, so it's,
That's life, Prabhu.
full of joy, full of anxiety, and that's
Yeah.
the representation of the material world. So, but Krishna pulled him out of this. He pulled
Yeah.
this elder Brahmin out of this conundrum, and actually came to
Mm.
the elder Brahmana, from his distress. So we can only imagine in seeing Gopal, what did he do? He fell down like a stick, dandavat, um, surrendering to him.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was feeling, oh, you came and, I was trying to wiggle out of the situation and now I feel embarrassed. He felt complete surrender and gratitude to Sri Gopal.
It's wonderful, sir. Yes, actually.
So there'll be a little bit more history given here, in the remainder, there's still quite a number of verses left. There'll be some history that is given about what took place after this. We'll go for maybe a couple more verses here. Text number 14. Text number 114.
তুহার সত্যে তুষ্ট হইলা দুহে মাগো বর দুই পিপ্র বর মাগে আনন্দ অন্তর
The Lord continued, I have become very much pleased by the truthfulness of you both. Now you can ask for a benediction. Thus, with great pleasure, the two brahmanas begged for a benediction.
যদি বর দিবে তবে রহ এই স্থানে কিঙ্করে রে দয়া কর তব সর্বলোক জানে
The brahmana said, please remain here so that people all over the world will know how merciful you are to your servants. So this is the when pure devotees, they ask for benedictions. They're not asking themselves, as these two brahmanas did. They didn't ask for themselves. When they ask, Lord, please remain here so your glories can be understood to people all over the world. Because they were thinking of the deliverance and the elevation and the reestablishment of people's lost love for God, and how the presence of Shakshi Gopal, could reawaken that. So they begged him to please remain here, so his glories could be told. And ask, the Lord asked us for a benediction. What would we say?
Give me wealth, give me this,
Relieve
give
all
me
my
good life.
relieve all my anxieties, but the pure devotee, he prays for the deliverance of the fallen souls of this world.
গোপাল রহিলা দুহে করে সেবন দেখিতে আইলা সব দেশের লোকজন
Lord Gopal stayed, and the two brahmanas engaged in his service. After hearing of the incident, many people from different countries began to come to see Gopal. So I'll stop here for the reading today. And if there's any final thoughts, questions, comments about this wonderful pastime, we will we could take that now for a few minutes. Okay. Thank you all. I hope you're enjoying this blissful story, this pastime of Shakshi Gopal and his two eternal associates. We will pick up next week on text 117. And next week we'll talk about the things that took place after this, which are also informative and relishable. So we have a question in the chat. Something to say in the chat. Okay. Thank you, Madhya Garangi. Let us end here today. Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki
Jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय।
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.